difficult time.
Good at
Vanessa
moving.
Rodriguez, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm presenting today on the effects of self-compassion exercises on self-esteem in first-generation Latina students. I do want to recognize that a lot of the research being done has a different terminology when talking about Latino, Latinx, Latina, Latine. I went to the National Latinx Psychological Association yearly conference in Puerto Rico last year, and a lot of the new research being done on Latino populations in general have been using the terminology of Latinas, so I'm going to try to be using that. A lot of the research that I do have for the presentation, though, does have like the word Hispanic and stuff like that, so if it seems a little weird, that's kind of like, just wanted to acknowledge that. Some information about Latina students and self-esteem. A lot of the studies being done about self-efficacy kind of look at solution-based, solution-focused brief counseling in specifically middle and high school students, looking at how those interventions will, go to help students reach goals. Some studies have seen the measures of self-esteem predicts positive mental health and life outcomes like academic success. And that's kind of something that I wanted to hone in on. I do want to say that last year I did present a very similar presentation on self-compassion in relation to anxiety. I did it with my partner, Lily Alonso. She's now at UCI, she's doing great. And we did a poster presentation last year, and we saw there was significant change on anxiety levels in specifically community college students on campus with a self-compassion based intervention. So where's the gap? The gap that I've seen in research in specifically studies of self-compassion is that there are larger groups of community college students, university students, medical students on how a self-compassion exercise can help alleviate like stressors or anxiety or depression and stuff like that. But there hasn't been a lot of research done specifically on first-generation Latina students on the effects of self-compassion. So I want to say a little about why. So what is self-compassion, right? Because it consists of three parts: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. So those different things are how one is nice to themselves. Common humanity, it's knowing that other people are going through the same things as you are. A lot of problems are kind of universal. And mindfulness, thinking to yourself without judgment. A lot of these exercises range from like self-love notes, in the morning writing 3 down things up to yourself that you like about yourself and reminding those, like mantras if you're familiar with that, or just like mindful meditation that you guys are kind of familiar with. But I really wanted to look at self-esteem because not everyday people know what self-compassion entails, or you don't really hear self-compassion every single day out when you're like talking about mental health. But self-esteem, yes. So the difference between self-compassion and self-esteem is really where we do the comparison. So the comparison in self-compassion, you're comparing yourself inward, right? And in self-esteem, you're kind of comparing yourself to the outcomes of others around you. And that's where Dr. Krista Neff, who started researching self-compassion back in 2010, made this specific distinction that's why she thought that self-compassion was something really worthwhile in researching. I also thought that self-esteem was really approachable to everyday people, specifically, college students, young people, and there was a good way of me being able to measure that versus something like an anxiety level that I'm not going to, guarantee that every single person is like incredibly anxious before we start studying. So I decided to kind of go with self-esteem as something I wanted to measure as a change through a self-compassionate exercise. So my research question, could a self-compassion meditation exercise increase self-esteem levels in first-generation Latina students? Based on previous studies, I did hypothesize that it would help decrease self-esteem level, or increase, sorry. Not decrease, that would be not a good time.
May have died on it, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. So, yeah, you can keep going. research methodology. So I did have 10 participants. I wanted to keep it small, not only for my sake, but I thought it was really important that I wanted to talk to these people after they did like an intervention like this. So they were all first generation, identify as some sort of Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latine, and all ranged from 18 to 30 years of age. A lot of were different parts of their academic journey, so like community college or, you know, from community college, bachelor's, master's, and beyond. Like there was kind of like a big range. And I used 2 different scales. So the Rosenberg Self-esteem scale, which is a 10-item Likert scale, and the Self-compassion short form scale, which is 12 items. And they would rate a certain statement from a range of like 1 to 5, if it was like likely or like not likely. And after that, there was a 10-minute meditation exercise. And then those who came back for part 2 of the study did a brief reflection on their experience. So I used a Google form, and at the beginning, all participants took both scales. Then they were prompted to come up with a couple different mantras or like encouraging words to say to themselves during a meditation exercise, and they were guided through it like a 10-minute, like, you know, breathe in, breathe out, say these couple things to yourself, and that was done 3 times over like the span of 10 minutes. And then participants took the scales again at the end. Those who elected to come back for the second part of the study, which was only 6 out of the 10, which is fine, they started out with meditation exercise and then took those scales again. So I did a 2-tailed repeated measures t-test to look for significance in the data. Results from pre and post test indicated that a brief practice of self-compassion resulted in significant change. So again, only 6 of the 10. But I do want to say that I did not have access to JASP at home. So I had to do reverse coding for all of these Likert scales by hand, which was really fun. I'm just saying, math is cool. So I have a couple different ones. So this one is the Rosenberg Self-esteem scale. So I did, in blue, we do the pre-intervention scores of self-esteem for all 10 participants, right? So that was just like who participated in the first one. So we see that it's kind of all over the place, nothing too incredibly significant for this one. But the next one is those who came back for the second one. We do see that there is more of a change, right? So after they came back for the second time, slept on it because it was like a night away, it seemed that they were able to at least have a little bit of level of self-esteem change. I do have, next one, sorry. That was the 6, sorry. This was the 6-item one, sorry. No, next. Yes, that's great. Sorry, this clicker's not working out anymore. So for results for self-compassion, same thing as the self-esteem scales. Same thing, 10 participants. We can see kind of them scattered all over the place. And then the next one would be the 6 participants that chose to come back for the second one. Again, it is noticeable that some things have changed for that second group. We can keep going, but I would like to note that there's so many different levels in both of these Likert scales. So for self-compassion, there's so many different levels in that you can, like some of them are negative levels, right? So like comparison to others, like self-judgment and isolation or over-identification. So those things, like I had to reverse score them. So if they scored it a 5, that meant it was a 1, or if it was scored like a 1, it meant it was a 5, depending on the positive or negativity of that scale. So that's why I said it was really fun having to convert numbers back and forth. But it was also a factor, right? So it was a little difficult to look at what actually was being concretely said for the self-compassion categories. So I did find the self-esteem levels change significantly for those that did the entire study, so for that second part. And I thought it was really important to look at the reflections of what the participants said. A lot of people said that, you know, I've always thought that I was a kind person, but I never thought about how I'm not kind to myself, which I thought was like really powerful. Or reflections of being like, you know, I never thought that like chilling for 10 minutes would be really effective for me to calm down for the rest of the day. And a lot of these reflections were really rad to hear. Were really cool to be able to see that a really brief, small study like this could kind of affect someone's like day to day. So intervention did help self-esteem levels. It did extend on previous research that self-compassion does help on the topic of like mental health, specifically in this population of subjects. So I think the implications here is that if we focus on mental health, specifically in first generation Latina students, it's really important for like personal growth and especially academic growth. We see self-efficacy in a lot of first-gen students like be a really big issue, and you know it can be really powerful to know these results for like school counselors, like you know professors as well, or you know as a first-gen Latina student. Probably learning a lot of these skills a lot earlier in my academic career would have been really helpful. I graduated high school 9 years ago, and if I knew this like coming in, like it would have really changed my trajectory. Not that I'm upset about it. I'm exactly where I need to be, and I'm really glad that I'm here. Next one. Yeah, so some of these limitations, obviously online versus in-person intervention is a big key factor. Google form, I can't see if someone's like actually caring about it or not caring about it. So that is something that can really limit the study. Willingness to participate is something that I really thought of when doing this study, because I think a lot of the time when I talk to people about like, the self-compassion, some people are very quick to say, oh, like there's nothing wrong with me, or like I'm nice to myself, I'm nice to others, like there's nothing can change. So I think the willingness to participate in something like this is really huge for someone to say that and to be honest in some of these skills, right? And obviously it takes time to do this. I would have liked to do this over like a longer period of time. I originally wanted to do it for over a week, but I do work 2 full-time jobs and I'm really tired all the time. So I not that I put it on the back burner, but it was just something that I really wanted to do. I've been thinking about doing this study for over a year after I did this symposium last year. I'm really glad I got to do it. But I do see that there's, in the future, would love to do different kinds of self-compassion exercises, like journal writing would be really cool to see, specifically like different age groups, how like middle school students would do something like this versus like an older generation. I see a lot of the research being done now is geared towards younger people, but I don't want to forget about the older generation, specifically like first gen or you know immigrants in general, and how they use self-compassion to better themselves. Yeah, I put power of online right here because I've been really inspired by a lot of first generation Latina PhD students who have used the power of like Instagram and like social media to promote their studies, and I think that's really important and really cool. I would love to do that at some point. I really enjoyed research. If you guys want to talk about that conference I went to, I would love to talk about it. It was really fun, and it was in Puerto Rico, which is not a bad idea. But yeah, I think that's it.
Excellent.
Yeah.